Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. This is a horror movie show. We talk about horror movies. Well, what a start to the year.
Right.
First episode of the year, and I'm just like stumbling through the intro like no tomorrow. So we talk about horror movies, and this episode we are going to talk about another franchise film. We've been working our way through a few franchises over the past few months. This is going to be the Howling 3, the Marsupials.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with the word marsupial, it's basically describing a type of animal where the newborn is not necessarily ready to be on its own, so the mother will have to keep it in a pouch of some kind. Think kangaroo is the most common example, I imagine. Typically, Australia and New Zealand are the kind of place where you'd get more of these animals. Not exclusively, but for the most part. So naturally, this movie's set mostly in Australia, just for the metaphor to really sink in. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do, and I'm slouching. I apologize. I'm looking so unprofessional. So we'll start spoiler free, and we will go into spoilers at some point. We'll warn you, of course, before we do, and we'll talk about this movie. Which I mean, I don't even know where to start with this.
There's a lot to unpack. That's for sure.
There was a lot more plot than I was expecting for a werewolf movie. I will say that. This was back and forth. First things first, this feels like it has nothing to do with the first two.
No, and so the first time I actually heard about this movie was I watched a documentary a couple of years ago. I think it was called Ozploitation, which was about like this kind of like run of like basically Australian exploitation films, like from the I think 70s and 80s. And if I remembered correctly, I thought that this was kind of like an unlicensed sequel. Like they, when other countries will sometimes make a sequel to a movie. But I was trying to find like some research online to see if that was true, and I couldn't really find anything. So I don't know if I was just misremembering it or if that's not really.
It feels kind of like that, but it's the same time though. Like, the next Howling movie is Howling 4, because typically when that happens, you'll end up with two movies that both say they're, like, the third part. So, at the very least, they accepted it afterwards, if that did happen. So, I don't know. It does feel completely unconnected. I mean, the second one didn't feel that connected. I mean, technically, plot-wise, the second one was connected, because it started with the funeral of the woman who died at the end of the first one. But after that, it has nothing in common with it at all. And then this one, like, the first thing I'll say, really, is especially the last like 30 minutes does not feel like a werewolf or a horror movie at all. It's like this completely different thing.
Yeah.
we have a 15-year time jump at the end of this movie. And we see characters do things in the future.
I think they were trying to have like a message to it. Which I don't think like I mean, that's fine. I mean, save
it for spoilers, but I just want to ask you the question, Tim. Do you understand what the message is supposed to be?
I believe I do.
Okay, yes. Cool. Right, okay, I'm looking forward to that now. But...
yeah, I just think this is not the kind of movie, though, that you really try to have a deeper level to it.
I don't think so. No. I don't even... Because that's the thing, even the werewolf like mythology of this, is not only does it not match the previous two films, really, it doesn't even match like any other werewolf story that I can think of.
No, but I guess because there's this whole like kind of biological like evolution angle to it, so I guess if you want to really try to dig into it, you can be like, well, this is kind of like an offset, like this is the Australian cousin to the werewolf.
Okay, yeah. I suppose you could say that. Because, just to make this clear, and I don't think this is spoiler territory given the title, but in this movie, werewolves actually get pregnant and give birth, and then they shove the little demon werewolf fetus thing in their pouch. They've got pouches, like kangaroos, as I explained earlier. So, it's weird as shit is what I'm saying. It's a weird-ass movie.
It kind of it jumps all over the place, and yeah, like it's again, without going too much into spoilers, it's not very werewolfy. Like I didn't think there was a lot of kills. When there was, they weren't very gory or
No.
anything.
Here's my thing. I think the first like half of it, it's really bad, but there's so many weird ass like random what the hell is happening moments that I was almost willing to recommend it based on the first half of, oh, watch this with some friends, laugh about what's going on, you'll have some fun. Unfortunately, though, after that first half, it just nosedives into this boring, like, just sequence of events that are so not interesting, and it's insane.
It's really unfortunate. I think that's the big problem with the movie is there's a lot of really, really crazy, wacky stuff going on to the point where, you would almost give this a recommend as a really weird, cheesy, movie. Yeah, like you said, something to watch with your friends and make fun of. If it was maybe 20-25 minutes shorter, it would be perfect for that.
Yeah, this movie's about 100 minutes long, and it feels long because, especially in the first half, because there's so much plot, there's so much back and forth with what's going on, that it feels like it's lasting longer than it is. And then, so you get to like the 30-minute mark and you're like, what, it's still got over an hour left? What?
Yeah.
And you kind of have that feeling. But like I say, once you get to sort of the second half of the movie, and it's mostly like, in the forest and stuff, it just like grinds to a halt, and it is so dull to get through. Like, I was struggling to pay attention for a lot of that second half. It was dire.
I had to rewind a little bit because I like fell asleep.
As did I. Do you know, there were several moments where I kept stop paying attention, and then something would happen. Like, oh, something happened. I need to rewind and see, and see what the important thing that happened, because I'm just like oofed. So in terms of the main characters, you've got this woman, a werewoman, who's escaped her werewolf tribe because her stepfather is like abusive, and so on. She doesn't want to be a werewolf anymore. So
no, I'm sorry. Just to just to be fair though, this is kind of hard because if they are marsupials, that wolves are not marsupials. They're canines. That's like two different, like species.
I'm fascinated where you're going with this, because you said to be fair now. I'm fascinated where this point's going.
I'm just wondering like what you would call these people, because I don't know if you call them like marsupials, but again, that seems kind of weird though, because like marsupials are like they're not one specific type of animal.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, are they more like wombats or something? Like, would they be werewombats, or I don't know. It seems like they need a different name.
That said, though, the little werewolves, the werewolf suit is a werewolf suit.
True.
And when they kill things, it's very much a werewolf kill scene. So, and they constantly talk about werewolves, and they try, oh, it's not like the movies, it's not a full moon, that's not what causes it. And there's all these references to, so they're clearly still supposed to be werewolves. It's just they have this extra tangential thing going on. So we follow, she's one of the main characters. She meets up with, was it Donnie?
Donnie, I thought.
Yeah. He's like this assistant director on a film set in Australia, and he befriends her. So they're like two main characters, and then the other main character is the professor who wants to prove that werewolves exist. And we see him with some of his professor buddies, and we see him try to prove things at the hospital and research and all the rest of it. So that's kind of our main characters. And
he gets like a video of people like sacrificing a real life werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Like, oh wow, that would be pretty big news.
Which he's showing to his class at a university, right? Which is fine, and he's got it on two TVs, which is also fine. It makes sense. It's a big room. What I don't get, though, is why both TVs are within about 2 feet from each other, and they're both pointing in the way, meaning anyone on the side of the room can't see either. Oh my god,
that's a good question.
It's like, if you're going to have two TVs showing the same thing to a group of people, spread them out.
Well, I mean, he's, what is he, an archaeology professor, biology professor or something? He doesn't know this technical stuff.
I'm going to say anthropology, maybe?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. He needs to get the, the AV professor or whatever in.
Why is it, it's like tangent here, why is it teachers, and I think this is true anywhere you go, why is it teachers are always terrible at working? Whenever they have to show the class a video or a DVD or something, they're always terrible at working it. Like they've never used one before in their
That's
lives. I don't know what it is, but for some reason they always struggle.
I don't know. Maybe it's so we can relate to him. Be like, oh, hey, look, this guy is an idiot just like us.
I tell you, the amount. And the thing is I was in university for television production, right? This was a course dedicated to the use and practice of cameras and recording equipment and sound equipment and all these various things. And admittedly, the lecturer I'm going to talk about here was there for the business side of it, teaching us about that. But she couldn't work the projector to show us something one day. And I just snapped. I just got up and done it. I didn't even ask if she wanted help. I just went up and done it quickly because I'm had enough of this. Like we're in a course that's about this. No. Learn to do this at least.
Yeah,
run over. I'm just gonna.
That's pretty awful. The one thing you never want to hear your teacher say is, "Wait a minute, hold on. Wait, is that right?" That's like.
No, that's true. That said, though, just when we're on wacky teacher stories, I once, this was in university again, where we showed up to the first class. I think it was the writing course that year. We showed up to class. It was the first day of the term. And we were waiting for about 10 minutes. The teacher's late, lecturer's late, no big deal. 20 minutes pass. Why is no one here? So someone went to the staff room, like, hey, TV staff, where's our lecturer for the writing class? They hadn't hired someone to teach it yet. The timetable is in.
Oh my God.
And hadn't hired a lecturer to actually take the class. What the hell? Anyway, okay, I'm done. Let's go back to the movie. Oh, I've got it out. It's out my system. Shoddy. Absolute shoddy. So that's the setup of the movie. And a lot of the first half is like, professors try to prove it, they're trying to track Eddie's werewolves. There's also 3 werewolf nuns trying to track the girl down. Who all, by the way, are forgotten about. Halfway through the movie, we just stop seeing them, and we forget about them until we see a glimpse of them at the end. But it's like, oh, okay, so what were they doing after all this stuff with them at the start? I don't know. So that's the movie. So full spoilers. Let's just go full spoiler. Okay. I want to talk about plot points. That's the only thing to talk about with this movie. we're not going to talk about the good direction or the music or the acting. The acting in particular is flat out terrible for a lot of it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's a character right at the very end that I could not believe how horrible they were.
Was this the presenter in the award show?
No, the son, like the grown.
Oh, the son. Yeah, he was terrible.
He was awful.
Yeah, so that's a tease for later. We'll get to who that is. But so I want to talk about how crazy. So the movie starts and we see the professor teaching his class and various things, and he goes to Australia. He wants to prove it's all true. He wants to prove we're also Australia because his grandfather was a scientist who looked into this stuff, and he couldn't quite prove it. But he recorded the footage. So this footage is at least like 60 years old at this point already. But he's in Australia trying to prove things, and we see this girl escape her camp with her brethren because her stepdad's being creepy and trying to like basically rape her. And
well, she flat out says, "My stepfather raped me." Yeah.
Or at least tried to. I don't know if she says it in past tense. She calls him a rapist. I don't know if that necessarily implies that he went through with it already.
I was pretty sure the line, like, she says something along the lines of, this is...
Go on.
This is what she says. I remember because it was, like, so crazy. I, like, kind of, like, jotted it down and, like, told it to my friend. But yeah, she says, like, I hate my stepfather. He tries to rape me and is a werewolf.
That is a hell of a lie. But it tries. The key word being there, tries. Yeah. So, and I think it's important to say that it's tries because later on he's kind of an ally, and it felt weird.
It was like, weird, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, why are you even okay being around him? This is strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the start of the plot for her and how she meets the Donnie is some of the craziest, unrealistic movie writing I have ever seen in my life. So she gets to the city. She's in Sydney, right? You know, because the opera house is in the distance. So, which she came to Sydney, by the way, because she had a snow globe with the opera house in it, and she asked like, "Oh, does it ever snow at the opera house?" It's like, "No, it's Sydney." And she's like, okay. But anyway, so she comes to say, and she just sleeps.
Sorry, 1 second. But do you remember the name of like their town that she ran away from?
It wasn't Tuna, but I want to say it's something like Tuna.
No, it was well, I mean, I don't know if maybe that was like the larger town, but like where all the werewolves lived, it was called Flo.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of water and fish, and I got to Tuna. Flo, yes.
But it's just like I just had like a Troll 2 like flashback of like, oh, Nilbog backwards is goblin, like, oh yeah, Flo, wolf.
Yeah.
We get it.
Very good. Very good. So she just sleeps on a bench. It's not even a park really. It's just a little bit of a it's a little bit of a path next to the main road, and there's a little bit of grass and
some green.
And she sleeps on this bench. And of course, some creepy men come up to her at one point in the middle of the night, but she scares them off because she's a werewolf and she has the teeth and she's like, and so the next morning, Donnie, our assistant producer or assistant director, is just driving his convertible, and he just sees her on the bench. Like she's getting up, she's just sort of sitting up and like yawning, and he's like, she's so attractive. That he stops his car, he gets out of his car and starts walking over to her. She sees him walking towards her and decides, he looks sketchy, I'm going to bolt it. And she runs away from him. So keep in mind, he is a stranger who's pulled over his car and started walking towards this strange girl he does not know, right? He sees her run away from him like he might be a rapist. What does he do? He chases after her, full speed, yelling, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you, wait. And then when she gets to a fence, she's halfway climbing up a fence, and he stops. He's like, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm an assistant director. You're beautiful. You're perfect for a part. Do you want to be an actress? And she agrees to it, and within 2 minutes, she's on a film set, and the director's like, yes, you're fantastic. Yes, you could be the next Catherine Hepburn. Yes.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Like one, I love that she agreed to do this, even though.
Also, I want to correct myself. I realize it's Audrey Hepburn. Just leave it be. I know people are going to correct me in the comments. Right? I just quickly threw a name together. All right. Sorry.
But so she agrees to be an actress, even though I think like a little later she'll admit that she's never seen a movie. I don't know if she even knows what one is. Which,
by the way, so she gets on a film set, right? And the director's like, yes, I like you. You can be in this. You want to be an actress. Oh, you don't want to be an actress. Oh, I like you. You get spunk. By the way, your first scene's in 30 minutes, and you're going to be gang raped by werewolves. Yeah. Ta-ta.
Oh yeah, it just happens to also be a movie about werewolves.
And on top of that, so you think he says that? I was thinking, okay, we'll get a really awkward scene where she feels uncomfortable being filmed like this, and it'll be weird. No, it cuts away, and you never see that scene happen.
Yeah.
It implies it just happened off camera, like she's okay with it, like she gets it. She doesn't even know what acting is. She's never seen a movie or a play. How could she possibly know what an actress is?
Well, again, I also like the idea that, I mean, sure, this seems like it's, a cheap horror flick or whatever, but still, just the idea that they're probably shooting this, like you said, like either that day or the next day, and they still haven't cast a pretty important role. And then the one guy decides just by driving and seeing this girl waking up on a bench and being like, her, yeah.
You would think a movie being made by people who make movies would understand that plot hole, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to get something wrong in the film industry, that's really bad, because it's fine. You get something wrong about space with NASA, you get something wrong about the procedure, or, the paperwork of a law office. You know what?
Sure.
People writing it, I've never worked there, they don't know the ins and outs. But you feel like someone on set might have went, hey, we don't typically, not cast our actresses until that last minute, by chance. It can't just, even ignoring the casting part, he meets her by seeing her at the side of the road and decides to stop his car. Like, it's not even like he meets her at a bar, or he meets her, they're both sitting around in the park, and he decides to strike up a conversation, like a little meet cute. No, he stops his car, he screeches his car to a halt, he gets out, and he chases her at full speed, like a goddamn pervert. And then within minutes, she's like, it's okay. And then off screen as well, we don't even get the idea that they're even romantically attracted to each other. We just cut to them later that night. If we went to a movie and then we see them lying in bed, they've just had sex, and it's like, okay, I guess that progressed. Which, by the way, when they're in bed after just having sex, there's a comical amount of sweat on them. It's like they've been drenched in water.
Well, Australia's pretty hot, so I'll give them that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you can get quite sweaty during sex, but this is like comical sweat. This is like, they're sinking the Titanic level of sweat.
And yeah, not to jump too far ahead, but I guess this will like give her a pretty like funny story that she can talk about when she wins whatever award she wins for like best actress at the end. Because hey, it turns out she's actually a pretty amazing actress. Who knew?
That's 15 years later. She has a lot of learning to do before then.
True. I'm assuming she started off at least okay.
Of course, we get a scene as she's asleep where Donnie wakes up and he starts looking at her stomach, and there's some of the fur starting to come in from Werewolves, and he sees like a sort of like the line where the pouch is going to be, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, guess she's going to be pregnant.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I wasn't sure about are they just kind of always like, you know, getting ready to be like werewolves, or
I don't think so. I feel like the sense I got here was that it's just that when she's asleep she can't control it, and so she's just like, you know, because she's so comfortable, like her part of her body just furs up, isn't just natural, I guess.
that makes sense.
That'd be my guess. It does lead to some really weird scenes later on when she gives birth, and so you essentially get like a shot of her kind of naked, like for the bottom half, but because it's all this fake fur on top, you don't really see anything like that, but you see the little baby come out, and then it goes inside a little pouch, and every single part of this is weird as shit. It just looks bizarre and disgusting. I have no other words to describe it. It's so strange.
Yeah, gee, and I really, this might be totally wrong, but like I really want to say that they did use like a live animal for the baby or something. Again, that's what I remember in the documentary, but it's been so long since I seen it. Like,
it didn't look like anything I recognize, so I don't.
No, like, yeah. I mean, if anything, like, yeah, maybe if it was like a, you know, like a really newborn, like, you know, some type of wombat baby or something. But again, I'm just going off this documentary, which was like, you know, probably 5 or 6 years ago or something. I've seen it.
So they've fallen in love.
But yeah, it does look really, really weird, like you said.
This goes on. Eventually, like, she gets scared, she runs off, she gets caught, she's in the hospital, the professor meets up with her. During all this, though, we meet some other characters. We meet another main character, this ballerina, who... This actually might be, like, my favorite part, maybe, the ballerina scene. I can see why, because she actually gets referenced before now, because the professor's talking to his professor friend, and they're bringing up the you know, just current affairs, and he's like, oh, did you see this Soviet ballerina, like, you know, came to the US, like, she came to the West, like, she's in Australia just now doing her ballet, she's you know, she's betrayed her homeland, she's with us now. And then we see that she is a wolf and her keeper's a wolf, and they decide to go to rehearsal. How this professor and his friend can get into a rehearsal, I don't know, but they're in the theatre watching them rehearse, and the ballerina starts spinning, and she just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, and she's turning into the wolf as she's spinning, and it just keeps going on, and it's silly, and you know, everyone's watching, and they're like, oh, this is great, and she starts like killing everyone on stage, just spinning, she's spinning and spinning, and eventually the wolf just turns like, it's so over the top. This is what I'm talking about. Some of these big silly moments are like, this is worth watching for this stupid stuff.
And there's a great like capper to it where, you know, you see this one guy's like doing this like, you know, ballet move where he kind of like, you know, does this really big jump, like, and like he's going to I guess either like fall in her arms or something, or maybe like land next to her or something, but you know, as he's like halfway in the air, he sees that she's transformed, but he's like, he can't stop himself, so he's just like launched himself into her, and then yeah, she just like snaps down on him.
Yeah, you also have the there's like an after party, which is where
oh yeah,
the Jerboa, the girl, you know, kind of goes wolfy and ends up going elsewhere, but the nuns, the 3 werewolf nuns, go in there and just murder everyone. And you don't really see it. You just see like it's like a comedy scene where you just see like everyone running out from the outside.
Yeah.
But hey, It is what it is. So that's the thing, and then after the whole werewolf transformation, the ballet, like they have the ballerina, they have her in the hospital bed strapped up, and they're trying to do tests on her. They've got various people related to her locked up in cages, and that takes us up to kind of the halfway point where ultimately the professor decides that he's going to break them free because the evil government people and the president all want to like dissect them and kill them, and which by the way, the president is this over the top asshole, and then later on there's this really homophobic joke where the professor's friend, who's kind of on his side but like isn't on the whole plan to let them escape and all that, he comes back and reports to the president, oh hey, I think he's fallen in love with the ballet werewolf, and he's like, oh my god, is it at least a woman? It's like, yes, it is. Oh, thank God for that then. Oh, yes. And I'm like, okay, very great little homophobic joke there, sure. But
I mean, thank God that that's only in movies. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have a president that was so insensitive to, people of different lifestyles and cultures.
Hey, I have it in good authority that no one loves gay people more than he does.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he said that.
At it.
He said it repeatedly. He's the best gay lover there is.
Yeah.
Some anti-Trump humor, guys. Go for it. Why not? Let's get political every now and then. So this is where the movie gets boring, though. Once he's broke them out and they go hiding into the woods, and in fact, Jerboa and Donnie, they go into the woods together as well with the, pregnant, and she gives birth by that really weird giving birth scene. But then they're in the woods. We actually don't see them for a while. It's actually the professor with the ballerina coming to the town, and they meet the guy, what's his name? Kendi. Is like the...
Oh yeah, he's like an Australian Aborigine guy.
But he's also a wolf, and he's like there, and he's got some comic lines. But honestly, up until the time jump where we get the 15 years later, that's like 35, 40 minutes where there's like some hunters hunting them in the woods is just painfully boring.
So, I think the big problem here is, like at least up until this point, we had what felt like a pretty, cohesive, like, storyline following basically these two characters. And
very wacky as well, may I add. There's a very wacky, lots of big moments.
Yeah, I think the problem here where it starts to get convoluted and boring is it starts kind of splintering off into all these different things, and all of a sudden we're following like all these different sets of characters, and and at first you kind of think like, oh, this is like a werewolf movie where she's gonna deal with being a werewolf and being hunted by werewolves, but now you got like the government involved in it.
When they arrive here, they end up teaming up with their family, including her stepdad, who's tried to rape her. Like, he's on their side. It's weird, like we said. Weird. It's bizarre. And then the only moment that really stands out, though, is during this whole section, we find out about some of the mythology here. There was the, what did they call it, the Phantom, who was a man who fell in love with a wolf and had sex with the wolf, which produced the beginnings of their clan, the werewolf tribe. And he comes to them in their dreams sometimes as a phantom to help them and guide them.
Well, I mean, I feel like we've all heard that before, so that's not that crazy.
And that's just the build up for what I want to talk about. I mean, that's crazy on its own. But then the rapist stepdad decides to call upon the Phantom to transform into the, what does he call it? The true wolf? The big wolf? I don't know. But I was just probably get more of this because we basically just see him, like, his snout comes through this wall to grab a guy, like a giant alligator almost. He's huge. And I was like, oh yes, because I thought it was going to stop being boring. I was like, oh, let's get to giant werewolf. Like he's 15 foot tall and he's like huge, and we never see him again. It's just that it's done.
Yeah, and I guess we haven't really talked about it before, but might be a good time to mention that the werewolves in this look pretty bad.
Oh yeah, look shit.
I would say like maybe some of the worst werewolves we've seen.
Which, to be fair, it worked for me during the spinning ballet scene, because that was so silly anyway that I was just kind of laughing because the bad werewolf costume just added to the effect. But when all these like hunters in the woods are getting picked off one by one by the werewolf, this was just a little like shit. Like there was fun about it.
Earlier in the movie, like Donnie takes a Jerboa to like see her first movie, and they like watch this like really cheesy werewolf movie,
Oh,
and
I'll give this credit though, because I think this is meant to be bad because it's a movie within the movie.
well, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that they have a really bad looking werewolf in that movie, but it doesn't look that much better or that much worse than the actual werewolves. Like, I think the joke is supposed to be like, oh, look how dumb and cheesy that looks.
Which, by the way, I didn't realize he was going to be a werewolf because at first he just starts bubbling up. I thought his head was going to explode. And then,
oh yeah,
and then I rolled my eyes because I was like, wait, so he's making a werewolf movie and he took her to see a werewolf movie that's currently playing as well. And she's also a werewolf. And he doesn't even know that yet. There's a lot of werewolf coincidences going on in this movie, Tim. That's all I'm saying.
it's crazy. Yeah.
So to cut a long story short, the ballerina werewolf with the professor who are now in love are meet up with Donnie and Jerboa, who have now got their little werewolf baby, and they basically set up a hut in the woods because the government are going to want to, like, you know, hunt them and dissect them and whatever. So they basically just live in the forest. And we've passed by years. We see that the professor and the ballerina have a son who's a little bit younger, of course, than the daughter, and we see them both grow up, and eventually we've got like they've got a daughter. So it's the first baby was a son, regardless. Yeah. And time passes. No one looks any older. They've put a little bit of grey in the professor's mustache, but that's about it. Everyone looks the same age otherwise. And 15 years have passed. After a few years, though, the Donnie and Jerboa decide to leave. They want to go back to the city. They want to go back and have new identities and try and hide because they want to have jobs. They want to have lives for them and their son. So they leave. And then 15 years later, the friend of the professor finally finds them and says, hey, the laws have changed. The Pope has given... the Pope has accepted werewolf kind into the world, and the president's backed it, so now you can go home again and you can be part of the world.
Now, one thing that I thought would be maybe interesting in tying this, like, these movies together would be if they said, like, oh, like, ever since that, like, news lady revealed herself as a werewolf, like, you know, the world has come to accept werewolves or something. Like, it seems like, I don't know, there could be something there to at least try to tie these things together.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, no, it's just we just get the the Pope says it's okay now.
Had you said this was set before that first movie mostly, and then said that this took place after the first movie, then I could see what you mean there. Yeah, but so they come back. He's teaching again. He's teaching about werewolves and all the rest of it, and Jerboa and Donnie's son, who's now 20, shows up at the class and is like, hey, I'm their son. It's like, oh yeah, we've been living there, this is their names now, and my mom's an actress, and we see this montage of her being an actress and all these different things and all these photographs and
now, and just to be fair, the way you just deliver those lines were like 100 times better.
Oh, he's
the guy that
he is terrible. He looks like he's reading off a page behind the camera the entire time. It is shockingly bad.
I'm assuming that, like, he learned his lines phonetically or something. Like, he just doesn't, like, speak any language, and so they just, like, taught him to, like, mouth these words.
Any language, not just bad. English. He doesn't speak any language.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. And he's like, hey, tune in tonight. Like, you can come and visit soon, but tune in TV tonight, you can see them. Which, by the way, if she's this famous actress, I find it hard to believe that... I mean, I don't know how long they've been back, but surely you'd see her, like, on an ad or something at some point. Whatever. So
also, like, if they were on the run, I don't know if, like, becoming one of the most famous actresses in the world would be, like, the best.
No, it's not.
Cover.
It really isn't. And Donnie's the director. He's got this really bad fake mustache, which I think is supposed to be a real mustache in the film. It's just it looks like a really bad fake mustache.
Oh yeah.
So she's getting an award. And by the way, I just want to mention as well, that montage of them growing up in the woods was cheesy as shit. And
oh yeah.
It just that was where I was like, this does not feel like a horror movie anymore. This is like a weird ending. And I was like, surely this has to turn back into a horror movie, and it kind of does for the final little moment. So basically, a professor and his wife, the ballerina. I keep saying ballet first, but they're at home. They're going to watch this, and it's an award show, so it's not quite the Oscars, even though it looks like an Oscar. And Best
Basically,
actress.
it looks like it's someone's uh, like, I mean, any award show, they put some like, money in the presentation
Yeah.
of it, like on the stage and stuff. This literally just looks like uh the smallest stage with just, the cheapest like curtain backdrop that they could get.
Yeah. And they've got this over the top actress with these big stupid glasses presenting the award, and she's like,
I think this was like a famous, well, not like super famous, but like semi
yeah, I don't know if it was.
famous
I think it was.
character.
I think it was based on someone. Yeah.
Yeah, like, because I remember seeing this person before in like the 80s or 90s as like kind of like a punchline on like late night talk shows or whatever. Like, they would, have her, do a segment or something.
But she presents her with the award, and she comes up on TV on the stage, and Gerbeau is like accepting this award. And so here's the thing: they set up earlier in the movie that sometimes strobe lighting can elicit a werewolf change. Now here's the thing: you're telling me that in the 15 years of her building her career up to where she's on a stage accepting an Oscar for a movie. It's not her first movie, it can't be. She's been in tons of movies. She has never encountered photography on a red carpet before. Because that's all this is. It's just people like taking photos of her. Like it's the camera flashes. That's what this is. And she transforms into a werewolf on TV. Everyone acts shocked. We see the reactions back at home of them watching on TV. We see like all these other reactions around the world. We see the president react to all the rest of it. And they're all shocked and horrified. And I'm like, but I thought werewolves were accepted now in society. Why is everyone...
Yeah.
Not to mention, of course, this is just kind of a rehash at the end of the first movie with a TV broadcast. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, this is real dang weird. I like you said, my first thought was like, oh, this is the first time this has happened to her. Like, it would be way worse, like the paparazzi on like a red carpet or something. And
hell, entering this very building, the red carpet.
sure, yeah.
Before an award ceremony, there's always the red carpet where they're all talking about the dresses and shit. Like there.
If anything, during the actual awards, is when people would be like, flashing their cameras less, because at that point, then you just, you're more like filming it for TV and stuff. I imagine it wouldn't be as many, photos then. And then, yeah, like you said, all right, I thought we were like cool with werewolves now. Like, is this really like that big a shock or anything?
Everyone at home was, I mean, I guess the only thing I can think of is that they didn't know she was a werewolf, and maybe they're like, oh, we were saying she was so attractive and stuff, but she's a werewolf. Oh. And I'm like, I'm not sure what the point of the ending is supposed to be.
So, like the very last thing in the movie, they pan. I think it's the teacher's apartment or whatever, and they zoom in on the back wall, and he has a framed picture of a Tasmanian tiger, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with what this is, but this was a creature in Australia that was basically hunted to extinction. I think in the early 1900s, I want to say. So I think the movie is trying to make like a point about like conservationism or endangered species or something, basically saying like, oh, like we can't hunt these creatures into extinction. But it's like, like I said, this is not the movie where you really want to have like
it's not the
deep
movie
of a message. Also, I think if that is the point, I think it gets kind of lost because they're trying to make like the government to be like these bad guys, which to be fair they are, but also the werewolves are still killing people. Like,
yeah,
it's
that's
not
that's the thing. We because they're treating the werewolves in this like they're just another race of people, which is fine if you want to go that route. But we see like the three nuns walk into a room and just butcher everyone. We see the ballerina accidentally kill like everyone else on stage. Like, deaths are happening. There's reasons to want to at least contain them at the very least. It's murky at best.
Like, if it was just them living in their their little city, by themselves, not causing any harm, and the government like comes in and like starts rounding them up. It's like, oh yeah, like screw those guys, like kill them, get them,
Yeah,
fight the
political
power.
messaging. Yeah, there'd be things
Yeah.
there.
But like, yeah, with this, it's like, well, they were kind of like running amok and like killing a bunch of people and stuff. I mean, at the very least, try to get those guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, you are incorrect slightly, because the very last thing in the movie is it cuts back to the director and he looks right at the camera and goes, cut, and then it goes to the credits.
You're right. I absolutely forgot.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually kind of bummed we didn't get to see more of him, because I absolutely loved the director. I kind of felt like maybe they were trying to do like maybe like a Hitchcock spoof or something.
Yeah, he was a complete asshole, and
Yeah.
yeah,
He kind of talked like this, like
very proper English voice. Yes, darling. Yes, you're going to be a star. Yes.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of him. But I really dug his character.
No, he disappears after the movie. That's the thing. There's so many like sections of this movie where like stuff just gets dropped after. We see those three nuns watching the TV at the end, but that's about it. We don't really see them. Throughout most of the movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a shame, because the crazier elements in this are pretty entertaining, and not that it doesn't ever look well, and it's not really ever shot well or anything, but just in a cheesy, entertaining.
Unfortunately, all the good moments though are very lopsided into the one half of the movie, and then the second half is mostly just complete dull, excruciating pain of death.
Yeah, like I don't even think this would be like even 90 minutes. I think like would have been too much for this movie. But if it was like, I don't know, like 85 minutes or something, I feel like then you could have had like a pretty solid, fun, bad movie.
75. Chop more out. Keep chopping. Chop. But no, I kind of agree. So I guess with that, we'll get to ratings, Timmy. So what would you rate the Howling 3, the Marsupials, out of 10?
Man, it sucks because the crazy parts I really do like. I think I'm just gonna give it a, I'm gonna be a little generous. I'll give it a 4.5, because at least the, I don't know, entertaining parts are entertaining.
I can't go that high. I think I have to give it a straight 3.
That's fair.
There are some like so bad it's funny moments, but they're very lopsided, and then once those all go away, it's just nothing but tedious, and it's a pain to get through. So I think I have to go with a 3. Acting's bad, plot makes no sense, there's no logic to it. It's the most unrealistic character reaction to anything I've ever seen in my life. And characters aren't that likable. They're tedious for the most part, and it tries to pretend we care about them having a happy life at the end, when we get this 15-year montage of them in the woods, like, forging for themselves and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't care about any of this. Can we please move on? Can we kill some more people with wolves, please? Anything?
That's all very fair. I can't really argue that. I'd say it's worth a watch, but I mean, I feel like you don't have to pay attention, especially like after the first half or so. Yeah, but at least the entertaining parts, I think, can stand out to, like, if have a good time to watch and make fun of with people.
No, the first half works with that quite well. It's just the second half that's a bit not as much. But
it's kind of a bummer, because if you explain the plot to me, like if you just give me some of the quick like summary of some of the various plots, I would be like, oh hell yeah, I want to see that movie. And it's a shame that doesn't really come together as well.
Yep. Oh well, I guess that is Howling 3, the Marsupials. So let us know what you think of the movie if you're unfortunate enough to have seen it in the comments. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. The voting on Patreon will be, if you're watching this on Patreon, because this will be up early on there, it'll be up in a day or two. If you are watching this probably on YouTube, then the voting's already up for the patrons at the $5 tier and up. I will just say the theme for this month is romantic, because obviously the winner will be done in February, so it'll be romantic.
Oh.
Me and Tim will get some candles in for the review, and we'll have a nice night of it. But that is that is the Howling 3. If you want to support the show and the channel as a whole and keep us going, as we mentioned, Patreon, head over to patreon.com/MailerFuzzTV. There'll be a link to that in the description, as well as some other useful links. But otherwise, that is it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.